there's a way we have to think around agoraphobia that can help you start to understand your way out of it. The base of agoraphobia is this trap of looking for a place of safety or a sense of relief. I don't know if you can relate with this. For you, do you often feel like you have to know that there's some way you can escape from a situation? Okay, so let's just think. So, for example, if you went to a theater, would you be wanting to know where the toilets are, for example, or would you be wanting to sit nearest to the door, for example? You're looking for the door. You're looking for how to get back to the car. And maybe when you plan to go out with someone, do you have a plan in your head of how to get back home quickly? All of those things are like the safety seeking thing that's happening. So this particular experience just kind of shows you how agoraphobia tends to build up. Because if you can think about it, some years ago, before the anxiety really took hold, perhaps you felt confident enough to do many of the things and go many places by yourself. And did you kind of feel like gradually you started losing confidence in different places? Right. And so that's the way the agoraphobia works. So I had this example with a client long ago who had a similar situation. So this person lived in the UK, and what had happened that his plan to travel on a cruise, but then he had a stroke 3 weeks before the trip. But although he sustained no damages, and this has created a lot of anxiety for him. Initially, he had the stroke. This was someone who could go everywhere. He could go to the shops. He could go to the underground. He could do everything. And then he started having this pattern where he will find, okay, he felt increasingly anxious on the underground, and perhaps thought maybe it's best to avoid going to the underground. So he stopped going to the underground. Now, anytime he tries to go into the underground, the anxiety will increase and he will feel more panicky. And so it's almost as if the agoraphobia started to take away different grounds from him. First of all, is the underground. Next, he can go to the park. Next, he can go to the shops. Next, he can go just be on his road. And so gradually, his world began to shrink. Okay. Can you relate with any of that so far? Did you feel like your own experience, that's how your world shrunk as well? So you just stopped finding it comfortable to do different things and go in different places, and gradually until the only safe place became home. So this particular training is showing the things that keep agoraphobia going and alive. These are often things that people do that makes them feel very safe.
Yeah.
With the situation, but the problem is that it stops the problem from being fixed. And we'll just explore them and see whether any of them will relate to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so avoidance. It could be something as simple as you're supposed to meet me for the session today, and you choose to not come because of the anxiety. Now, in the initial stage, what will happen would be you'll feel anxious until you then decide not to come, and then you feel relieved. So the avoidance will help you feel relieved, and then it feels like that was the right solution because you're no longer feeling anxious. Can you see the pattern there? Right? And you'll perhaps find that happens for many things that you're trying to do. You avoid, but until you avoid, you are highly anxious. Okay. So that's avoidance. And you notice there's that pattern with these things is that these things, they feel helpful. They feel like they are solving the problem.
Yeah.
But what they're actually doing is making you more vulnerable to the problem. So where initially it starts like, oh, I just avoided that thing and I felt less anxious about that. But what that's now done is that the next time you want to do that thing, it feels harder to do. And that's how the vulnerability gets built up and feeds the problem. Okay, so the next one is compensation. And with compensation, what we are doing is we are doing something but overdoing it. So a good example of compensation would be I'm talking with some friends, but as I'm talking with those friends, because I don't want them to know I'm anxious, I'm talking a lot more. So I'm compensating for the anxiety by talking a lot more. I don't know if that example makes sense. So that's one way of compensating. So another way of compensating, which may relate specifically to the anxiety, would be that when you feel anxious and you're thinking that you're going to kind of have a panic attack, you may decide to drink a lot of water because your throat is dry.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're drinking a lot of water, and the water is helping you feel okay. So you're kind of compensating with the water, right? So again, on one level, the compensation can help to make you feel comfortable and a bit safe. But again, it's doing the same thing of keeping the vulnerability alive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're seeing that pattern there of how these things seem to help, but actually, they're actually making you weaker to the
Yeah.
problem of anxiety. Okay. The next one there is being over vigilant. And a common example would be you go for a walk, and as you're outside going for a walk, you just can't stop looking around to see what's going on around you. Are you safe? Is somebody going to jump on you? Somebody judging you? Somebody looking at you weird? And that over vigilance just makes you feel increasingly anxious when you're out. On one hand, it feels as if that the over vigilance is helping you by keeping problems and threats away from you, because it's helping you think that you're catching those problems, you can see those problems before they come and affect you. But at the same time, it's actually driving your anxiety through the roof and not allowing you to experience the walk in a pleasant way. And all of these, as you say, it's a reflex that's done in a way to try and keep you safe. But unfortunately, in this situation, what it's doing is just kind of heightening the problem of anxiety. Um, and they're all following the same pattern. And the last one there, which is kind of looking down, I don't know if it's something you do, but the common thing is when you're feeling anxious, you don't want people to see that you're feeling anxious or feeling embarrassed. You're looking down to try and avoid eye contact and avoid anybody being able to judge you. Sometimes you may even feel almost as if you've got the word anxiety tattooed on your forehead. Um, but all the time, all this is doing is just you're trying to kind of avoid being found out somehow. Um, but the more you're looking down, what this is also doing is just making you feel. It's a bit like the monster you are not seeing would feel like a more threatening monster. So you're looking at trying to avoid this monster, but you feel like there's a monster there that's judging you or trying to treat you horribly. But by the fact that you're not looking at the monster, is making the monster seem a lot bigger than the monster is. I don't know if that analogy makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, there's another form of the looking down that's not necessarily about looking down, but I think you used headphones. You said on the to kind of cover your ears to stop from hearing what's going on and just block away the threat around you. So again, on one hand, that helps to make you feel safe and relieved. But on the other hand, it stops you from training yourself to feel comfortable with what's going on around you. And that's the power behind agoraphobia. And in fact, any anxiety-based problem is being driven by a system like that, where you are doing something that seems like it's helping, but actually it's not. And what gets worse about that is that these things you are doing that you feel is helping, you do them so much that they become the habit. They become habitual, and once they become habitual, you don't even realize that they are driving you anymore. It just becomes, oh, this is who I am, this is how I'm doing things. And sometimes you get to a point you don't even question it anymore. But really what has happened there is that it's formed a very strong, like a chain around you and holding you down to the problem. And that's the chain we've got to break with therapy and help to retrain your system to start to feel safe and able to not need to do these things. Did that make sense? So That's sort of an explanation of the science behind the problem. So that now what we'll then start doing from the next session is we will draw out a plan of the problem for you, and we'll draw out this process which we are going to start taking to break the problem down and stop it from controlling your life like it has been.